Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys. Recording our last show of 2019. Now, we've got a couple of more weekends in the month, but the next Tuesday is going to be Christmas Eve, the 24th. The following Tuesday, New Year's Eve, the 31st, and we're going to take those days off, and we'll still be on, but we'll be showing a best of FAIRtax Power Radio.
That's
next week is going to be one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, well, don't tell them.
I won't tell them. I will let them find out what it is, but it's one of my best ones for next week.
And New Year's Eve is one of my favorite shows, so we're gonna replay those shows, put as we call them the bookends, to make the episode current. But anyways, this show is airing for streaming for the first time on the 17th, and let's see. Let's start out with the congressional update.
Well, we're going to do the last congressional update of 2019. Now, anything you see in the next couple of weeks is liable to be outdated, but this is the real one. The count now, if you go to congress.gov and you use the search function there and search on the string Internal Revenue Code, you will now get 1,294 hits on that return.
Almost 1,300.
Yeah, and so Congress has been in session almost a year. They start in January.
Yep.
So 1,294 hits on that search over this year. Oh, and they got some good ones here. Listen to this one. This sounds just like the government. Yeah. H.R. 5419, to a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to require payroll tax withholding of independent contractors of certain large businesses. So when a large business hires an independent contractor and gives them a 1099 instead of being a full-time employee, a lot of time those 1099 employees or businesses don't get tax withheld, and apparently the government wants to make sure they get their cut, so they want to be sure the contractors are not avoiding or evading the income tax.
Yeah, and which mystifies me, because a copy of the 1099 is sent into the IRS. They know about it, but it's the keeping up with 160 million taxpayers is a bit of a job.
Yeah, they just want their money. That's all there is. They don't care.
So,
here's another good one. H.R. 5409, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide tax credits for energy storage technology and for other purposes. Now, is that an oil tank or a battery?
Yeah, I'm guessing that because of Congress's love for electric cars and all things electric, it's batteries.
Probably.
I'll bet you anything.
Yes, that's Representative John Curtis of Utah put that one in.
Yeah.
There's one more that I need to borrow a little bit of your expertise on.
Okay.
S3032, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to allow for transfer of the renewable electricity production credit, the energy credit, and the credit for carbon oxide sequestration. Okay, Mr. Chemistry teacher, what is carbon oxide sequestration?
Well, first off, I'm not sure what they mean by carbon oxide. There's carbon monoxide, which we all know is poisonous, and carbon dioxide, which is not poisonous, but it does not sustain life. Sequestration, I believe, means getting rid of it, combing it out of the air, as they do in certain smokestacks and so forth.
Oh, who knows?
So, yeah. So they're...
Now, I got one more question for you.
Sure.
What does that have to do with funding the government?
Yeah, well, it shows you our friends up in D.C., they like to get their fingers into every aspect of American life because they know better. They're inside the Beltway.
They think they know better.
Yeah, So they use the tax code as a tool to bring about the changes they think need to be made. Okay.
Yeah, and back to this H.R. 5409, the providing tax credits for energy storage technology. I will refer you to Steve Hayes' chairman's report to see what that's all about.
Yeah.
Chairman's report for December the 13th.
Okay.
That talks about what tax credits do and what they're actually doing. So check that out, if you will, at fairtax.org.
And as a reminder, the chairman's report is part of the FAIRtax Friday email. If you're not getting a FAIRtax Friday in your email inbox, then you need to go to fairtax.org and sign up for it. In fact, when you go to fairtax.org, the first thing that pops up is sign up. There's a little window there that says sign up, so make it really easy. And you won't get any spam because you sign up with FAIRtax.org. They're very careful not to share or sell the database to anybody else. They never do that. So that's where you can get the chairman's report.
We need to move along here. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today, and you've got a grassroots corner you want to get in.
Yeah, grassroots. I really wanted to do this one. This is dated December 6th, so it's about a week before this recording. Okay. What one state group does well. Today we spotlight a state group that focuses on one thing and does it well. Our California team for a long time has been visiting university campuses in the Bay Area and engaging students. Great idea.
Excellent idea.
Yeah. The objective was to establish a presence on California campuses and get the FAIRtax brand to register with students through multiple exposures to the message. No sign-ups, no literature, but now the team has upped its game. The team has designed and printed a push card that is calculated to appeal to students. So we have, FAIRtax. The national group AFFT has their own push card or palm card, but these guys took it upon themselves to make one designed specifically to target students, college students.
Absolutely,
great idea, and that's a great audience. So I'll put a video or an image up there. The first message on the push card reaches students who think wealth inequity is a bad idea. The second message hammers away at politicians and big businesses. Another speaks about the glass ceiling. There's more to this report, but I'm going to make it as quick as possible. And then there's a page 2. That's two-sided push card. Several important points on page 2. First, the FAIRtax untaxes tuition and wages used to pay for it. That should appeal to students.
That's a winner.
Yeah. Our California team also underscores the FAIRtax raises the same amount of revenue. It's revenue neutral, as we have talked about. Page 2 also makes the point that Social Security will be funded on a much larger and more stable tax base.
So
right?
it will be around when those students finally get around to needing
exactly.
it. Yes.
Yeah, because I know my son, one of my sons, said, I don't think Social Security will be around when I'm ready to retire. He has no faith that the government is going to keep it going. So, which is sad to say.
They keep taking a piece of his paycheck to pay for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I want to mention their names. I'll put a picture up there. Sergei Sevchuk and Marty Sturmer. These are the guys this time. There are more California volunteers involved in this effort, but at this point, Jim was pointing out these two guys. So if you have something of the grassroots nature that you want to let Jim know about, it's jim.bennett@fairtax.org. jim.bennett@fairtax.org.
All right.
All righty.
What we wanted to dig in today on FAIRtax Power Radio was how the FAIRtax will help us return to the original intent of the Founding Fathers, as their intent as expressed in our founding documents, i.e. the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, which was added to it. So we have dug into those documents and have found some things where the FAIRtax will help you get back to what the Founding Fathers were thinking when they founded the country.
Yeah.
Of course, we mention all the time that the Constitution specifically forbade a direct tax, which the income tax is. And we'll get on that a little bit. But there's some cool stuff in the Declaration if your screensaver will come back on.
Yep. And we're going to start right from the beginning. July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. By the way, just as an aside, United is not capitalized in the Declaration. The States of America is capitalized. United was just an adjective. In the Constitution, it was the United States of America. So, of course, at that point, they had fought a bloody war.
I thought you were a chemistry teacher, not an English professor. Oh, well, who knows?
Right. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, when Jefferson was the primary author,
Yes.
there was actually a committee of 5. Jefferson, I believe John Adams, and Ben Franklin, and a couple other guys. I apologize to those guys. I can't remember their names. But anyways, but Jefferson was the primary author. And it started out as life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. And they changed it to happiness. You know, what makes you happy? Some people might not want to acquire a lot of property. They might, go after something else. So happiness was more general, okay? I can say that when I think about the income tax, I'm not very happy.
No, I am not. And I was going to ask you, how does the IRS pursue this goal? How does the IRS support the pursuit of happiness? It usually goes the other way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
They can deprive you of your liberty.
Yep. So
I'm not sure they can deprive you of your life, but they can sure make it hell if they want to.
Yeah. To secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Well, sometimes the governed are not really consenting to what the IRS is doing.
Oh, I don't think so.
And it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. We definitely need to alter this government in terms of how it collects
The
terms.
founders knew about the FAIRtax.
Yeah.
Abolish the income tax. No, actually, they didn't. They couldn't even conceive of an income tax. They
Oh,
thought
no.
they had actually outlawed that forever.
No, if Thomas Jefferson came back right now, I think he'd be very unhappy
But
to see
the
what
right
we
of the
have.
people to abolish a system that is abusing them is right there
Yeah.
in the original founding document. And
Now-
if there is, I cannot name a more abusive agency than the IRS, and it needs to go.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. And they go on to talk about absolute tyranny because
That sounds like the IRS too. They're the judge, the jury, the executioner, and everything else when it comes to
And that's-
disputes over your taxes.
that's
It's
my
not
point.
you're not settled by an independent arbiter.
Yeah.
When the IRS doesn't like something you do, they accuse you of it. They consider you guilty, and it's up to you to prove yourself innocent, and they get to decide whether you've done a good enough job or not. That's not a fair fight.
And even worse,
That needs to be abolished.
Using civil asset forfeiture, they don't even have to accuse you of anything. They can just think you've done something wrong and go in and freeze your bank account or seize assets. This is not what the founding fathers
Yeah, that is
and the
not
framers
what
had
is in
mind.
this document, but that is what the IRS is up to. So they need to go away. We need to replace them with a fair tax. And don't be fooled, the flat tax will not replace the IRS. The flat tax is just another iteration of the income tax we've got now. We must have the fair tax to pull the income tax out by the roots and get rid of the IRS that is charged with administrating and enforcing it.
Yeah, it's got to be done. Okay, now, if you haven't read the Declaration in a while, you probably would be interested to, tweak your memory that a lot of the document is listing grievances against King George III.
Yes, this is
And it's a lengthy document.
long
and
list
there's-
of things that the king's done wrong there.
Yeah, that they don't like. He has refused to pass other laws for accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature.
In other words, they want to own you.
Yeah, and that does kind of sound like the IRS too.
That does kind of sound like, the king and the IRS are on the same page there.
Jeez. He has made judges dependent upon his will alone. Again, we talk about the IRS. They are judge, jury, and executioner.
Now, there is a tax court that you can appeal to.
If you have the money.
If you have the money and the time, but the IRS is the initial arbiter of everything, and if they want to question you and you can't prove yourself right to their satisfaction, then you've got to take that next step, and that is beyond the means of a lot of taxpayers.
Yeah. So here's another one. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out of our substance. Yeah, that sounds like the IRS.
Sounds like IRS agents. Yeah, that works pretty good.
Jeez. So
Now, here's a good one. For imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury.
Yeah.
Definitely the IRS there.
Yeah. And you know, yes, the IRS was created by Congress, and we elect the people that serve in Congress. That's true. But many times, you know, Bob mentioned the tax courts. Many times the IRS oversteps its bounds. Somebody challenges the IRS on interpretation of a certain law, and sometimes the IRS loses. But the
Not
IRS...
very often.
Yeah, they're able to write statutes that have the force of law that Congress never discussed, you know, never voted on. It's not a good situation.
Yeah, when we talk about the 70,000 plus pages of tax code, we're including those things that the IRS just wrote with the effect of law, with the force of law, that was never passed by the legislature.
Yeah.
And it's just nasty stuff.
So, and finally, before all the signatures, all right, and for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And a lot of these people did forfeit their lives, all right? When the British found the names on these things, they went after these people. And many of them were devastated, lost their homes, lost their families, lost their lives. Okay, we're not encouraging anything like that. We just want to, you know, Congress to do the right thing and pass the FAIRtax, H.R. 25, the only fair tax that is in Congress right now.
Correct. None of those 1,294 other proposals that are at Congress.gov.
Yeah, but you know, by the time people are watching this, it's probably going to be up to about 1,300.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
They've still got that circus going on, but they're still filing changes to the tax code.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, of course, we had to fight a war to enforce this, and when we finally won, oh, excuse me,
it was a very bloody civil war.
Yep.
And they also tried the Articles of Confederation, which didn't work so well because it didn't have the necessary muscle, you might say, to make the states cooperate with each other. It was kind of a disaster, and our fledgling country was having trouble. I mean, you know, the U.S. government had to, form a standing army, a navy, that type of thing. That's written in the Constitution. But some of the states didn't feel like paying their fair share. So anyways, so they said, you know, this Articles of Confederation isn't working very well.
All right.
We need to rethink this.
It is. All right, let's get into the Constitution that was established after we, you know, successfully won our independence from Great Britain. And now, all right, what do we do now? We got to figure out how to make this new country work.
Yeah.
And right in Article 1 of the Constitution, right out there, it says, when that sets out the legislative process, Section 3, which again is right close to the top, says representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers.
Now that's interesting. They wanted taxes collected the way representatives were also elected, you know. They also go on to mention that there's going to be one representative for every 30,000 people, and I believe they still use that number to figure out a congressional district, about 30,000 people. Okay, that's why some are very large and some are geographically small. But they expected taxes to be simple, like electing a person to Congress. That's pretty simple, you know. The people, they campaign against each other. You have one party and another and so forth. Taxes aren't that simple anymore, are they, Bob?
They haven't been simple since 1913, when the 16th Amendment to this wonderful document was adopted.
Yeah.
And that again, it took the constitutional amendment to allow an income tax. That is how bad an idea the founders thought it was.
Now, Section 7, we're still in Article 1. Article 1 described how to structure the legislature, the House and the Senate, what they would do and so forth. For instance, the House was responsible for beginning all financial bills. Tax bills start in the House.
Yeah,
right?
and the way they figured that the House was going to be the representatives for the people, the Senate would be the representatives for the states.
Yeah, and they screwed that up.
Yeah,
too,
they
didn't
screwed that up with another amendment later on, but that's beyond the scope of the FAIRtax here. But,
all bills raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Okay, that sounds reasonable. So financial stuff starts with the direct representatives of the people. Sometimes I think these direct representatives forget who they're supposed to be representing. Okay, Section 8. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debt and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. All right? They didn't want what we have now, where some people get preferential treatment, and even though we have all these tax brackets where the upper incomes are supposedly taxed at a higher level, but then they also put in those nice little loopholes and deductions that the wealthy people, they can afford to hire some high dollar tax attorneys and so forth, and legally reduce their tax burden. Okay.
And if you've been out explaining the FAIRtax for any length of time at all, you've undoubtedly run across somebody that says taxation is theft and all taxes are unconstitutional. We ran into that not long ago at an event we went down to. But Section 8 says the Congress does have the power to lay and collect taxes.
Sure.
Excuse me.
How are you going to provide
just not income taxes?
Yeah. How are you going to provide for a standing army and a navy and so forth? You know, you got to pay for it somehow. So the idea that there's no taxes is
taxes are unconstitutional is shot down by Section 8 here.
Yeah.
But again, they did not want income tax. And so here, where is this? This is Section 9.
Section 9?
Subsection 4, I guess they call it. No capitalization or other direct tax shall be laid, unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken.
Yeah. So now I interpret that as to mean that if they're going to collect taxes from people, it should be even. You know, like New York State at the time had so many people, and the federal government levied $10 a head, something like that, something that was even on each person. That's not what we have now. It's so complicated now. You've got a lot of people that pay no income taxes, although they do get hammered by payroll taxes. All right, yes. And then you got other people who pay big income taxes, but if they're smart and they can hire a good tax attorney, as we mentioned, they can legally reduce their tax burden. It's just crazy. It's nothing like it says here in the Constitution. All right, unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. Yeah. So we don't have anything like what they talk about in the Constitution, and that's why they had to pass the 16th Amendment. But prior to the 16th Amendment, we had those very nice Bill of Rights.
Yes, that's where we're going now.
Yeah. And see, the discussion that was going on with the Constitution, there were some people that they said, okay, the Constitution describes how we're going to structure the federal government and how it's going to collect taxes and stuff like that, but we don't have anything in there that protects the people from the government. They're very experienced. These people were pretty learned, and they studied previous governments, and they know that government always grows and becomes oppressive.
A self-serving entity rather than serving the people.
And they wanted to avoid that. So they had to promise, okay, ratify the Constitution, which they just barely did. Had to be ratified by 9 of the 13 colonies, the 9 of the 13 states. Okay? But when we have our first Congress, we have to work on the Bill of Rights. Now, do you know how many were originally proposed?
I do not.
17. They came up with 17 proposals for Bill of Rights.
Okay.
12 of them were agreed upon by Congress and sent to the states, and 10 of them were ratified, which we now call the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Some pretty basic stuff here.
Yeah, I like the fourth one. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Therefore, civil asset forfeiture is unconstitutional, but the IRS does it anyway.
Yeah, and going after somebody's tax returns just because they're running for office, no, if that person feels the need to release their tax returns, that's up to them. But you can't force anybody else.
Well,
right?
It's nice that they tried to pass a law in California to make you release your tax returns in order to be eligible for the primary ballot. That was shot down in California, believe it or not. So that says just how badly unconstitutional that is, that even California thought that was a bad idea.
Number one here has about abridging the freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Florida FAIRtax Educational Association is a 501c3.
Yes.
We have to be careful what we talk about.
Yes.
You know, which, because of the tax code.
Cannot endorse candidates, cannot be partisan. We just have to educate people about the FAIRtax. And you got about 5 minutes here to educate people about the logo store.
Okay. Well, I also wanted to mention due process, because this idea about due process, and that's been in the news lately, if you've had the TV on at all.
Yes.
Okay. That goes back. That idea goes back to the Magna Carta, 1215. That's not a new idea. That didn't come about with the U.S. Constitution. That's been around for hundreds of years. But we seem to have some people that kind of forget about it.
Yeah. And we keep electing them over and over and over.
Yeah. So, yeah, the IRS, we need to get rid of the IRS and the income tax and restore the ideals of the Declaration, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights.
And don't be fooled, the flat tax won't do it. FAIRtax is the only way to get rid of the income tax, and with it, the IRS.
Okay. Mrs. Producer, could you reach over and give me that there umbrella? I forgot to include that.
How about that?
They got the umbrellas in. I think they're a little more heavy duty than the other ones. You know, I won't open it up. I'll put a picture up there, but they're very nice, and they do.
We may need that today. It's kind of
FAIRtax. So when you open it up, you get the red, white, and blue, and the FAIRtax logo.
You'll have to get me one of those.
Very cool, huh?
Yes.
All right. Palm cards. All right, basic information about the pretty good information about the FAIRtax, and with some websites and so forth. You got two sides there. Buy them in a packet, which I believe is the only way you can buy them. You know, buy a packet of these things and hand them out. Give them, put one when you sign the check at the restaurant. Include the pocket card. Get some of these campaign buttons and wear these. I mentioned before, my wife puts several of these on the strap of her purse, and if somebody shows an interest, she gives one away. All right, this helps. We've gotten some great volunteers because they notice these campaign buttons. Okay, and earrings.
How dare you?
Yep, they are kind of large. Let me get one out here.
Oh, that's the kind that you got to have a hole in your ear to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think almost everybody.
There, I got a knife we can take care of.
No, we won't try that right now. But yeah, I'll have to get a picture of my wife wearing these things and put it up there. But anyways, FAIRtaxLogoStore.org. FAIRtaxLogoStore.org. Hats, shirts, these prebate cards. Right, basic information about the FAIRtax on one side. The prebate schedule on the back side, which next month we're going to have to update because we'll have a new prebate schedule,
yes.
You know, with the new year. Okay, these things are great. There's a lot of other stores. We need you to show your support, to demonstrate your support for the FAIRtax. It's really important. All right. So, I mean, you could wear one of these shirts when you go golfing or something, or you know, use the baseball cap. And I believe they have visors and so forth. They have all kinds of stuff. FAIRtaxLogoStore.org. Go on there, peruse. I'm sure there's something there that will pique your interest. And do us a favor, order it and display it. Show your support for the FAIRtax. Okay.
All right. And again, this is going to be the last new episode of the year for FAIRtax Power Radio. For the next two Tuesdays, we'll be streaming some of our favorite episodes, which I'm not allowed to tell you which one it is, so you just have to tune in and see which one it is.
That's right.
But,
We're not going to give it away.
No, but we do wish everyone a very Merry FAIRtax Christmas to all, and to all a good night. How's that work?
That sounds pretty good. Yeah.
All right, that'll wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Bolero.
The FAIRtax Guys reminding you again that the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Merry Christmas.
FAIRtax is coming. Don't stand